I want to start today with a question. Think back to your earliest memory of your mother. Not a constructed one, not a story you've been told about yourself as a child, but an actual felt memory. Now, what do you notice in your body when you go there? For some of you, that memory will bring warmth, safety, and a sense of being held. And for others, and I suspect many of you listening to this, something else will surface. A tightening, a hollowness, and a grief that doesn't quite have a name. Now, that feeling, that nameless grief, is what we're talking about today. Welcome back to the Wonders Within podcast. I'm Nikki Denham, founder of Wellness Wonders Australia, and today we are going into one of the deepest, most body held wounds I know, the mother wound. What it is, where it lives in the body, and why it's so hard to heal through talking alone, and what I've come to understand about it through my own lived experience. Now, this one's pretty close to my heart, so let's go there together. Now, I've mentioned in previous episodes that I haven't had a relationship with my mother for over 20 years, and my daughter hasn't had a relationship with me for a long time now either. Now, I want to sit in that for just a moment before I say anything else. Because for a long time, I kept those two things separate in my mind, like there were two different griefs and two different stories. And although the circumstances are very different, they're not. They're the same wound, just wearing different faces. Now, my mother didn't provide safety, not the kind a child needs to feel held, to feel seen, to feel like the world is okay. That safety simply wasn't there for me. And here's the part that took me the longest to say out loud. I didn't fully provide it for my daughter either. Now, I wasn't abusive like my mother, but I was so deep in my own grief, my own trauma, and my own ways of coping that I couldn't always see what she needed. And when you can't see someone, even when you love them, they don't feel safe. And that's what intergenerational trauma does. It doesn't announce itself, it shapes you. It shapes you in the way that you attach, in the way that you pull back, and in the way that you love people and still somehow leave them searching for solid ground. Now, I'm not sharing this to tear myself apart. I've done enough of that over the years. I'm sharing it because the moment I stopped separating these two griefs and saw them as one thread, everything changed. And that's when the healing stopped being about forgiving my mother and forgiving myself and started about understanding what was passed to me and what I had unknowingly passed to my daughter. And that's the wound we're talking about today. And more importantly, that's the wound that we can choose to end. Now, the term mother wound was brought into mainstream conversation largely through the work of a woman named Bethany Webster. She wrote a book called Discovering the Inner Mother, and she dedicated years to exploring why so many women carry a particular kind of pain that they can't quite name. A grief that sits underneath everything, a feeling of never being quite enough, of shrinking, of struggling to claim space in their own lives. Now, Bethany's work looks at how that pain, in most cases, traces back to the earliest relationship we ever had, the one with our mother. And how when that relationship carries wounding, it doesn't just stay there, it travels with us. I want to name her here because her work is definitely worth finding. And if this episode stirs something in you, she's a great place to start if you want to go deeper. But I also want to explain what it actually means in plain language. So the mother wound isn't just about having a difficult relationship with your mother. It's what forms inside a child when what they needed most, so safety, attunement, and belonging, simply wasn't consistently there. And it doesn't only come from mothers who were abusive or absent. It can come from a mother who was present but not quite reachable, who loved you, genuinely loved you, but was carrying so much of her own unhealed pain that she couldn't fully meet you. That's the part people miss. Most mothers did the best they could with what they had. The mother wound isn't about blame. It's about being honest about what was missing, because you can't heal what you won't name. And when a child's earliest needs aren't met, the body doesn't just note it and move on. It adapts. It learns to stay small, to not need too much, to perform instead of feel, to brace instead of trust. Now, those adaptations made complete sense for a child who needed to get through. But they follow us into adulthood, into relationships, into the stories we tell about who we are and what we deserve. And at some point, they stop protecting us and they start holding us back. Now, the mother wound is one of the body's most held wounds there is. And the reason is simple. It's pre-verbal. It was encoded before you had language, before you could make sense of what was happening, before you had a single word for what you were feeling. Your nervous system felt it first as a sensation, as a sense of safe or unsafe, seen or invisible, belonging or alone. And it stored it there in the body, in the nervous system, in the fascia, in the way you learn to breathe and hold yourself and move forward in the world, which is why talking about it alone rarely fully heals it. Now, just like me, you can spend years in therapy. You can understand your mother's story. You can forgive with your mind and still feel that tightening in your chest when something touches the original wound. Because the wound isn't just the story, it's in the tissue. In many somatic and energetic traditions, the left side of the body is connected to the feminine, to the maternal lineage, to what was and wasn't received. Now, when my left hip lit up a few weeks ago, I felt that as truth in my whole body. The sacral chakra sits at the center of all of this energetically. It governs belonging, relationships, our earliest bonds, and when the mother wound is unresolved, that's where it lives. Showing up as difficulty receiving, a sense of not quite belonging anywhere, a quiet feeling of being just slightly outside of love. Now, healing the mother wound is not a single moment. It is not one breakthrough session or one conversation or one forgiveness practice. It is a slow, layered, deeply somatic process of giving the body what it didn't receive then: safety, attunement, and belonging, and letting the nervous system learn slowly that it is safe to stop bracing. It is grieving what never was. And that grief is real and deserves to be honoured, not rushed, not spiritually bypassed, and not reframed too quickly into gratitude. First, we must feel it. Now, for me, that looked like somatic work, body shaking, hip release practices, breath work, sitting with the sensation in my body rather than immediately moving away from it or masking it. Learning to give myself slowly and imperfectly what I spent so long waiting for someone else to give me. That last part is perhaps the most profound reframe in all of this healing. You are no longer waiting for her to give you what you needed, and you are not looking for it in every relationship anymore. You are learning to give it to yourself, and your nervous system slowly and gently begins to believe it. If today's episode landed somewhere deep in you, if you felt your body respond to something I said, I want you to know that you don't have to sit with it alone. Inside the Wonder Circle, we work with the body, the nervous system, the emotional layers, and the energetic centers together in a held community of women who are doing exactly this kind of work. The mother wound, the inner child, the sacral chakra, the somatic practices that reach what words alone cannot. It's all there. And so is a community of women who will understand exactly what you're moving through because they're moving through it too. The link to join the Wonder Circle is in the show notes, and I would love to hold space for you there. You have carried this for a long time and you don't have to carry it alone anymore. So thank you for trusting me with this topic today. I know isn't an easy one, and I know that for some of you will have opened something that has been quietly closed for a very long time. Now that opening, however tender it feels, is not something to be afraid of. It's literally your body saying yes to healing. Now I'll see you in the next episode, and please be gentle with yourself this week. You deserve that gentleness perhaps now more than ever.